My name is Brian Drake, and I'll be your host for the meeting. I'm a project manager in the utilities department and will be a point of contact after the meeting. Cary's water services help maintain public health by providing high quality and safe drinking water. Tonight, we are going to talk to you about an upcoming sidewalk and utility project anticipated to start in the coming months that will impact the flow of traffic in the area, but ultimately improve pedestrian safety and increase water system resiliency in Cary's largest pressure zone, the central pressure zone. And with that, I'm sure some of you have questions already. So we have prepared a short video presentation that provides a little bit of background on Cary's yearly sidewalk improvement projects, as well as information on Cary's water utility system and what the project means to you as a resident of Cary. A couple administrative housekeeping items before I jump in. You will be muted throughout the presentation. Please submit questions at any time by entering them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat, and I've set aside time after the video presentation to address any questions submitted. Tonight's recording will be made available soon after the meeting on the project website. The webpage can be found by going to townofcary.org and searching Maynard Road Sidewalk. As I said previously, I'm Brian Drake, project manager and host for the evening. Helping us out with the design of the project is Chris Winley, engineering project manager at CJS Conveyance, headquartered right here in Cary. I'll continue to be your point of contact for the project moving forward, but with any project, multiple departments across town are involved and are to successfully execute. Transportation, utilities, police, and public works. We have representatives from each of these departments with us tonight. Give us a wave, everyone. And the easiest way to reach any of us is by calling 311 or emailing 311@townofcary.org. And with that, let's dive into our transportation and utility systems. I have a short video presentation to show that will include information on Cary's sidewalk program, Cary's master planning, and project-specific details such as project goals, schedule, and what to expect during construction. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's informational meeting. After a short overview of Cary's sidewalk program and water utility system, we will discuss an upcoming project on Northwest Maynard Road, shown in this project map, and what you can expect as a Cary citizen. We will come back to this map later on in the presentation, but I wanted to give you a sense of project area while we go through the following slides. Cary's program for constructing sidewalks can help reduce up to 88% of pedestrian crashes along roadways and increase pedestrian activity. You're likely not going to walk to school or the neighborhood store if you don't feel safe. This program is consistent with the MOVE policies in the Imagine Cary plan. Sidewalk program is just one of the reasons why Cary is nationally recognized as a walk-friendly community. Sidewalks serve everyone, kids walking to school and people walking in their neighborhood, to dinner downtown, or to the bus stop. In addition to a great sidewalk program that makes Cary a walkable community, Cary has an outstanding utility department. Here's a little overview of Cary's utility department, specifically our water utility. First off, let's talk about who we serve. Town of Cary, obviously, but so many more people than you would think rely on our water service. The Cary Utilities Department provides high quality and safe drinking water to the citizens of Cary, Apex, and Morrisville, as well as the Raleigh-Durham International Airport and the Wake County portion of Research Triangle Park. The Cary Apex Water Treatment Plant serves approximately 280,000 people. Our job number one, provide clean, safe, high-quality drinking water that tastes great. Have you wondered how the water gets to you? Cary's water system infrastructure consists of pipes, hydrants, valves, water meters, tanks, a treatment plant, and sampling stations. 1,138 miles of water pipe would reach from Cary to Canada if stretched end to end. All this pipe delivers the water produced by the Cary Apex Water Treatment Facility to your house. And while it takes about 20 hours to treat drinking water, when the water enters the vast pipe network of the distribution system, it can take 3 to 5 days for water to travel to the most remote locations. Because of this, water in elevated storage tanks is turned over on a daily basis. We take great pride in what we do, as shown by the many awards the Utilities Department continues to receive each year. Cary's distribution system maintains approximately 21.25 million gallons of finished water storage capacities in our tanks, which is about 1 day of normal water demand. The fact that the water is stored about 180 feet above the ground creates pressure in the system, and that is what brings the water into your house and into your home when you open the faucet. The elevated water tanks maintain pressure in the system throughout high demand periods and attenuate peak pumping rates. This way, the high service pumps can operate on a more consistent basis and refill the tanks during periods of the day when demand is low. The tanks also ensure water is available for fire protection and provide instant demand for an emergency such as a fire response or water main breaks. In 2020, the Cary Apex Water Treatment Facility produced 20.6 million gallons per day, which is enough water to fill 28 Olympic pools every single day. Planning. How do we know where, what, and when to build? How do we know we're ready for the future? Cary established its water system in 1923 and has been planning ever since. Master plans map out what infrastructure we need to build, as well as the timing for the construction. Historic master planning work is still relevant today, and the majority of the recommendations were sized appropriately. When you look at the detail of these plans, you see we have been ahead of the curve for decades. Master planning, both current and historic, takes in consideration the needs of our neighbors such as Apex, Morrisville, Raleigh, and Durham. It details how we should size facilities, not only today, but far in the future. It's how we decide when and where to build things like the proposed 24-inch water main on Northwest Maynard Road. And now more about that project and the reason we gathered here tonight. The exhibit you see here shows the project extents with High House Road to the north, or left side of the exhibit, and Old Apex to the south, or right side of the exhibit. The proposed improvements are represented by the orange and dark blue lines shown between these two roads along Northwest Maynard Road. The orange line represents the proposed sidewalk extension along Northwest Maynard Road and connecting with existing sidewalks on the north and south ends. The sidewalk will allow for continuous sidewalk along this section of State Road. The dark blue line represents the proposed water line extension located primarily in the outer northbound lane from High House Road to Old Apex Road. The existing water lines are represented by the dashed blue, light blue lines. The exhibit shows that the proposed water main will be connected to the existing water system on either end of the project limits. We have three primary goals for the project, including those shown by the graphic here. The project will improve service reliability by installing a new reinforcing water main that will connect with the existing water system. The water main along Northwest Maynard Road is important in moving water between the Cary Apex Water Treatment Plant and the downtown area, Old Apex Road Storage Tank, and the Kilmaine Drive Storage Tank. The project will improve pedestrian safety and extend walkability. The project closes a 1,700-foot gap of sidewalk on the east side of Maynard Road. The project will increase water transmission capacity and resiliency for current and future development. Paralleling the existing undersized water main with a larger transmission main will increase resiliency in the central pressure zone. What should you expect during construction? The first thing you will see occur is the relocation of some underground private utilities, such as cable and electric. In addition, there are a few light poles that will move slightly to allow for the sidewalk to be installed. There will be some tree trimming by private utilities, such as Duke Power, within their easements. Water main work would then begin from Old Apex Road to High House Road, with connection to the existing water system on either end. Most of the water main will be installed in the outer northbound lane. The existing pavement that is impacted will be replaced and the complete travel lane or lanes will be resurfaced. The water line and trench will be installed in sections with temporary asphalt installed for short durations. Once the water line installation is completed, new permanent asphalt will be installed and road striping will be replaced. That includes travel lane lines, turning lane symbols, and bike lane symbols known as sharrows. The sidewalk will be a 5 or 6 foot wide walk depending on the location and available space. There will be some vegetation removal within Cary easements during this phase of work. And finally, the sidewalk improvements will include new ADA ramps and pedestrian crossings, as well as updates to some existing ramps and crossings. The ramps and crosswalks will utilize the most recent updates to Cary's pedestrian sidewalk standards and in accordance with NCDOT requirements, as these improvements will be made within an NCDOT road right-of-way. We are working through the sequencing of the project, and it could vary some with each contractor. Some contractors may choose to install the sidewalk prior to the water line work. Here are existing images along Northwest Maynard Road showing examples of areas where sidewalk will be installed after existing utilities are relocated. The image on the left shows a view looking north along Maynard Road from the corner of Cedar Street. You will see that there is heavy vegetation and an existing light pole. In the picture on the right, there is an existing fiber box and a light pole as we look south along Maynard Road. Existing utilities in conflict with the proposed sidewalk will be relocated ahead of the construction project through coordination with the communication utility companies such as Google Fiber, AT&T, and Spectrum, and coordination with Duke Energy. The first image on the left shows where sidewalk is along the south side of Castalia Drive. This sidewalk will be connected to the proposed sidewalk along Maynard Road with a new ADA ramp. The second image on the right is taken looking south across Cedar Street, where sidewalk will be added with ADA ramps and a crosswalk. These are just a few examples of where improvements to the existing sidewalk system, along with new sidewalk, ramps, and crosswalks, will be installed. Following construction, the sidewalk ramps and crosswalks will look similar to the three pictures on the left. Similar to the picture on the right, the project will generally include a 5-foot wide sidewalk offset from the curb and gutter with a 3-foot grass utility strip between them. The sidewalk will be contained within an existing road right-of-way or within a newly acquired sidewalk easement. Now that we have shown you some examples of the areas where improvements will be made and samples of what to expect once the sidewalk is complete, we'd like to explain the typical construction process for a project of this type. The project will begin with maintaining a safe work environment, including setting up traffic control. Erosion control measures are then installed along the corridor to protect existing vegetation and storm inlets and filter runoff to prevent erosion and sedimentation from leaving the work area. The construction sequence will be based on the contractor's construction plan with input and limitations established by Cary. The contractor may choose to construct the sidewalk and the water main at the same time, or phase the work with one component being constructed before the other. Regardless, you can expect to see removal of existing vegetation and trench excavation activities for the start of the sidewalk and water main, respectively. For the sidewalk, there will be minor grading and leveling of the area where the sidewalk will be installed before forms are put in place and concrete is poured. For the water main will be installed in the trench, and then the trench will be backfilled with approved material and the pipe will be tested and disinfected. You will see equipment and materials delivered to the site at the start of this work. Following the installation of the sidewalk and water main, the restoration process will begin. For road pavement repair, there will be temporary asphalt patching, which will be replaced by permanent asphalt installation, including mill and overlay of the travel lanes where the water main is installed. Once the sidewalk and curb ramps are installed, the forms will be pulled and final grading of the road shoulder will be conducted with seating and straw placed for establishing grass on either side of the sidewalk. Once all infrastructure is in place and restoration is completed, final inspections will be performed by Cary and the engineer and contractor to ensure the work has been completed in accordance with the construction contract documents. Temporary erosion control measures and temporary facilities will be removed and final cleanup of the site made before the project is closed out. When utilities are being installed within the road pavement, lane closures are implemented and traffic patterns are modified. These can be in the form of lane shifts, traffic signal modifications, and detours. The lane closures for this project will be held to a minimum based on the required space for construction, and access to businesses will be maintained. Temporary night or weekend work may be required for isolated situations, but typically the active construction will occur during the weekdays, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Cary and the contractor will work to make this a successful, low-impact project while holding in place the goal of a safe work site and maintaining access to each property throughout the project. Lane closures and lane shifts will be utilized, but traffic control will be set up to allow for unobstructed access to properties. Night and weekend construction will be utilized if necessary to shorten construction duration. Work hours and construction noise will be typically limited to 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. weekdays only. During installation of the water main, water service interruptions are not anticipated. So where do we go from here? We are currently working on wrapping up final project permitting and looking to advertise the project for construction this fall. Cary continues to monitor material availability, and current plans would have construction wrapped up by fall of 2023. Cary is excited to work with you during the construction of the project, and to wrap up, staff is here to help. Please do not hesitate to reach out to 311 or any of tonight's attendees if you have any questions or concerns with this work. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, hopefully that video is beneficial to you. I have included some contact information here for the project, and please feel free to reach out to me going forward with any questions or concerns regarding the project. And now I wanted to take a few minutes to check in on any questions that may have come in the chat. John?
At this point, Brian, I don't have any, but certainly people feel free to go ahead and add those questions if they have them.
Okay. And you know, going forward, if you guys don't want to enter any questions or concerns in your chat now, feel free to send them over to me. You can call me at 311, or you can email me. I think some of you already have my email address, so if you give me a call, we can work through any questions or concerns outside of the meeting as well.
So Brian,
Yep.
We have a question up and it says, excuse me, how do you plan to contact homeowners and renters regarding timelines for utility cutoff and work?
So you're a little bunched up there in the beginning, John, but it sounded like, do we plan on contacting the residents ahead of construction?
Yes, sir. The question again was, how do you plan to contact homeowners and renters regarding timelines for utility cutoff and work?
So there's, again, there's no planned utility cutoffs. If there's any utility cutoffs, it would be in an emergency type situation, an unplanned situation. But and then prior to construction, we're required to, we are required to send out notices that construction's starting. I think we're required 30 days ahead of time, but we generally send out 2 different letters, one 60 days and one 30 days prior to construction. And then that would go out to the same list that we sent out the construction flyers about tonight, the homeowners or the property owners and the tenants. Did everyone hear me on that one? Okay, thank you.
And so our next question, Brian, is I would like to discuss longer-term traffic control on this stretch of Maynard. Accidents are frequent, speed limits are very often exceeded. How can we use this disruption that will cause to create new habits or incorporate better traffic calming devices, or excuse me, measures?
I'll jump in on that one, Brian, if you want. I know we were having, recently there was a speed study done in the area. And so certainly if you want to reach out to me, we could probably have a sit down outside of the, of this public meeting and just kind of go over the results and talk about traffic calming measures that we use throughout the town. Typically, we don't, I mean, if you're thinking, a lot of people think about speed humps when they say traffic calming, and certainly that wouldn't be appropriate on a thoroughfare like Maynard Road, but there are certainly other things that we can do, you know, talking to our police department about enforcement or other small things that maybe we can do with the signals. But if you want to reach out to me, and I can see whose name is on here, we can certainly have an offline discussion and maybe go over the speed study.
Thanks, Lou, Anna. Appreciate that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, Brian, the person who posed that question has requested to unmute if is a follow-up. We can do that, or I can continue to take questions.
Yeah, I think there's only a few folks in this meeting, so I'm okay with unmuting and answer and asking the question.
Okay.
That sounds reasonable.
And there are a couple of more questions, so we'll make sure we do cover
Yep.
everybody who's got questions in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Christine Wilson and I live at 905 Northwest Maynard Road. Luana, thank you for also offering to speak. I will say that my husband and I have spoken with many, even some of you on this call today over many years about the issues that we have and frequently have had on Maynard Road. We know it's a thoroughfare. We're not talking about speed humps. We're not talking about like just incidental measures. We really would like to see some more meaningful ways of slowing people down on the road. They frequently travel 45 plus. We're near the 25 intersection there with Castilia, and it's dangerous. So I feel like this opportunity of disrupting flow in this area for many months would provide the town of Cary with the opportunity to create new habits as it opens back up. And that's what I would really like to see happen. There was an accident there just about 45 minutes ago. So it's something that we really haven't heard about. And we've also been told that there's not much we can do and we're doing traffic studies, but there's really not been any changes implemented, and it's a problem.
Sorry, took me a second to unmute. It is difficult when you're on a thoroughfare. Northwest Maynard is a state maintained road, and so certainly we have to communicate with them and get their approval whenever we make changes or want to make changes on a state maintained road. So certainly I'm happy to talk more with you offline. I will say there's probably only so much we can do, design wise at this point in time, but certainly, we're willing to explore, options and sit down and talk to you about it.
I'm happy to reach out. I'll turn the meeting back over. Will also remind everyone that this is a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and people do not travel 35 miles an hour on that strip.
Thanks, Christine and Luana. And we talked about that a little bit this morning and in the past with the police department. And, we recognize, according to some of our studies, speed studies that we've done recently, it's, it looks like 10 to 15% of the people are over the speed limit in that area. And, we talked about with Sergeant Jenkins here about patrols in that area. And I don't know if there's anything more that we can really add at this time, but I think we're aware of it. And we're looking at the numbers. Sergeant Jenkins, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the patrols and the 85th percentile speeds, but
sure. One thing that we did, we were able to figure out specifically to the traffic in that section, Ms. Wilson, is we were able to lock down a better timeline of when the majority of the higher speeds are. In the 85th, essentially the speed studies, and I don't want to get too much into the details, but essentially the study shows that 85% of the vehicles are traveling under 40 miles an hour. Now you have the rest of that 10 to 15% that are traveling higher than that. And one of the really neat things about the study that we did that was done is we figured out a timeline. Generally speaking, and I'm sure you're aware of this, it's morning and evening rush hour. So our hope and our goal going forward is to at least provide a little bit more focus during those timeframes. Unfortunately, those are also the timeframes when the majority of our crashes happen, which we still have to respond to. So we're going to do as best we can to try to focus on those timeframes in that area for sure. And that's the study that Ms. Dean is referring to has helped us figure that out.
all right. Thanks, Sergeant. And so I guess, we're looking at it and we're open to keep the conversations open, and hopefully we can work together moving forward. John, I see some chats in there.
Yes, sir. You see in the chat. Brian, if you're seeing the chat, feel free to go ahead and, or if you prefer me to ask the questions, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, if you can, because I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff in here. We may have covered some of them.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
So our next question is a follow-up to the initial question about homeowner contact and renter contact. And I think it's a simple question in terms of what form of contact we plan on using for interacting with the homeowners or renters in case of any utility cutoffs or changing work conditions that we would want to report out.
Again, so for the utility cutoffs, again, there's no planned utilities. So, but if there were, I might ask Mr. Reynolds as our water operator that would be in charge of putting out some notices if there were an emergency break, for example. If you can unmute Mr. Reynolds and just kind of go over the door hanger process that we do.
Okay, here I am, Brian. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, good evening, and Davis Reynolds, and I am the water distribution system operator. And my staff, whenever we have emergencies that we have to respond to, of course, our first action is to be able to isolate the main break so that it, try to keep down the damage to the road. Is our first. That's our first action. And when we do have a main break in the area, our staff will go out and we turn off meters, and then we put door hangers on the doors to let you know that there's an emergency. We've had an emergency main break. And so we try to let you know as soon as possible, how long your the water interruption will happen. And so once we do that, then and the repair is made, whatever that timeline is, then we will go back and restore your water service, knock on your door, flush your spigot. But we do a very good job of notifying our water customers as fast as we can whenever we had an emergency going on with those door hangers. They'll go by, and we train them to go by and knock on the door, not just to hang the door hanger, but they'll actually knock on the door. And if no one comes to the door, they'll hang the door hanger. But even if they do speak to someone, they will actually hand the door hanger to them. So we try to keep you notified as quick as possible when there's something going on.
All right, thanks, Mr. Reynolds. So yeah, again, that's the water notices. As far as impacts for construction, we'll send out actual hard letters ahead of the construction beginning. We have a bunch of different social media type sites that we can put out notices to the area. In the event of a big and large impact, we could even go back to doing like a type of reverse 911 call, but I don't anticipate that kind of thing in this case. Impacts would be low. There could be some sidewalk crossings of driveways that we would maybe knock on doors and discuss with the tenants or the resident about potentially impacts, to access there, but we plan on keeping full access into the driveways. So any number of different things we've done.
Mr. Drake, if I could add also, so if we do know of a scheduled water outage, because we do have scheduled water outages where that we would have work going on during the day, or most of the time it would be during the day, but it could be at night too. And so we are required by the state public water supply to give you a 24-hour notice of any water outage that we know about that's going to happen. And so we will, there again, we put a door hanger and knock on the door, put a door hanger, and we'll give you a 24-hour notice before your water service is interrupted, and that's on scheduled work. And that's a little different than when we have an emergency, when we have emergency main break. So, but if we do, if Brian and myself and CJ, if we know that we have some work to do, that we're going to need to shut your water off for a period of time, that's a scheduled water outage versus an emergency. But you'll still get a notification. They still get a notification from water quality on that.
All right, hopefully that answers that question. If not, you can always, reach back out to me afterwards. John, was there anything else in there?
Yes, sir. We have one more question. And the question is, how do you plan, I think you started to touch on this a second ago, how do you plan to manage the driveway and home access in general and specifically for the 3 homes on northern outbound Maynard Road that face Maynard?
Let's see, northern outbound. Can you just read that one more time so we got our bearings together, John?
Yes, sir. That direction was 3 specific homes on northern outbound Maynard Road that face Maynard. And they've added between Cedar Creek and Castalia. And the individual that put that question out, if at any point you want to unmute and converse with Brian, feel free to jump in as he starts his description on that.
Yeah, so as far as the sidewalk goes, we'll be dropping the sidewalk at the driveway, so you'll be able to still get in there for the construction of the sidewalk. Let's see, then we'll have to, and Chris, I might ask you to jump in on this one, what the plan is with DOT, maintenance and protection of traffic. But there could be some steel plates that would have to be put in place in front of driveways temporarily to get access across any trench work during the day that they're directly in front of each individual home. What we've done in the past is kind of communicate with the homeowners or the tenant ahead of time, a few days ahead of time to make sure that they don't have emergency issues or, need an emergency access in there, and then kind of work with them at when they can maybe take a half a day off and let us go across their driveway. And then Chris, if you think you could add anything there,
Yeah, sure, Brian. So it's going to be very clear in the contract documents that the contractor has to maintain access to business and residential driveways to the fullest extent possible. So they're going to stage their traffic barriers. They're not going to stage it to close the entire length of the project. It's going to kind of be a moving closure, if you will. It'll be limited to the area in which they're working in. So they will, try to set that up so they're stopping short of driveways until they're absolutely required at that point to cross the driveway. And they'll, generally coordinate that with the town and with the property owner to minimize how long that occurrence takes. And a lot of times they can, do it in one half at a time, try to maintain some area around the cut to get to the driveway. So different contractors take different approaches, but they understand they need to maintain that access. So they'll be staging their work to try to keep from blocking the face of the driveway as much as possible. Like Brian said, there might be a short duration where they're working directly in front. But if they are not finished with that work at the end of the day, they can put steel plates over and open the access back up.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I would just add one other thing is that that's still the final permitting process is the DOT approval of the maintenance and protection of traffic plans. So we're still working through that with them, and they may have some comments on how best to do that. And we still have to meet some of the requirements. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have that ironed out here in a few weeks. All right, John, anything else?
Sorry, I guess I got unmuted.
Yep.
So those 3 houses, I live on the corner at Cedar Creek. And so I use the current patch of dirt to get to the side street in terms of walking and everything else. So it was about getting the vehicles out of the driveway as well as access to the side street. If for some reason, you know, it was extended time for driveway access and would need to get to the side street for vehicles or anything like that. As long as I'm also a renter, so I'm not a homeowner. So I appreciate the physical letters. If, for example, contractors decided to email or call the actual homeowner, I would not necessarily be notified.
Right. Yeah, especially access questions or concerns that the contractor would have. We would knock on doors and try to communicate with you face to face ahead of time. And you know, we realize that a lot of times that we're knocking on doors, folks are at work. So you know, the letters might be a follow-up or door hangers you may see. But I guess kind of following up on what Chris said, you know, the plan is to, and the intent is there to keep access to everybody's property. And we may have to utilize steel plates, you know, while they're doing it. If you know, all the plans didn't work out and you still needed to get in there when their trench was open in front of your house, then they would have a steel plate in place and they would have to put that down and allow you to drive across it. So.
And I guess I'll just go ahead to ask us my other questions. Sorry, my homeowner has not been very involved. So I don't have that much information. You had mentioned drop off of equipment for the sites. As this is a large road and it's small area, do you know where equipment would be delivered and left?
Yeah, I don't know the 100% certainty where every piece of equipment they're going to put in, but we've talked through that. It's called staging area, is where would they stage some of their equipment and the materials and supplies when they come in. So we're going to try to limit them to not ordering everything and have it delivered day one and have it sit there the whole time. But so there's going to be equipment and there's going to be some pipe and materials there. So what we're thinking is using the outer lane where we're working with the water line. A portion of that outer lane will be used as the lay down area too.
Okay.
And then they also have where the sidewalk is going to go, and it depends on the sequencing of how they want to do the construction, if they want to do the water line or the sidewalk first. But the clearing of the sidewalk area will most likely occur first. So they'll have some of that area, the grass shoulder, to use for any, pipe or fences or anything like that. But
yeah, I guess my house ends up being the special one on the corner because it has water and sidewalk, and then it's a downhill towards the house. So I'm assuming my house will start with the erosion project stuff first. Is that intended to be the start in fall, or I know that you're talking about the bidding stuff up until fall?
Yeah, so it's all kind of contingent upon us getting the final permits, and that could take a little bit, but if everything goes well, we would bid it and have it available for construction in the fall. There is a period of time where they have to order all their materials and we have to get contracts signed and all that. So chances are it's going to be a few months after that before you would see some silt fence type stuff going up along our limits of disturbance. And generally that's most contractors sub that kind of work out, and they have a company that comes in and they do all the silt fence first thing, so they get it done. But so that might be the first thing you see. I say that, but we are working with Duke and some of the private utilities, so they'll be in there working on some of the light poles and fiber boxes and those sort of things, kind of moving back a couple feet.
Yeah, I did. That's why I asked about notifying about utility services, because there is an electrical box, I believe, and like in general service box on this side. So like there was a picture and there was a light pole, but there's also utility boxes back in the woods, which I assume will have to be moved. So I didn't know if that would be like, if there would be power out, like cut off for any of that as well.
So we're working with Duke on the relocation there, and there may possibly be some short-term power outages. We're working on that with them. We haven't heard about any outages yet. And when we do, we certainly will pass those along. They don't always tell us as quickly as we had hoped, but we will know because we have to, sign off on and pay them to do this. So they won't move it until we give them the go ahead. But so we will know when they plan on starting that, and hopefully we should know when there's any power outages. But we have met with a number of utility companies, Duke, AT&T, I believe. We have Town Fiber. I think is there Spectrum out there, Google. There's every time we go out there, there's somebody else out there. So we met with a lot of them, and they're all kind of in the way now, and so we'll be dealing with all of them.
Okay. In terms of access to the sides, like to Cedar Creek, for pedestrians during the construction, is there any plan of access from Maynard to Cedar Creek, or is it just gonna be blocked off for construction and only concerned about the driveways?
So our plan is to keep it open. So there may be road plates across half of it. In certain times, it might be limited to one lane. But there's our plan is to keep it open, and we will work with the contractor on that, and DOT still has to sign off on it. So yeah, we
Okay.
should have access. Yep. Okay. Seems like, is there some more in the chat there, John?
At this point, that's it.
Okay, so if anybody, I missed any questions, or if you guys, think about that one question you should have asked. I know I always do it as soon as the meeting, gets over with. So you can shoot me an email or call 311, and I'm sure we'll know each other very well by the time this job starts. So I appreciate everybody coming tonight. And the whole intent is to kind of work through these questions and issues and concerns. So I appreciate your time, and hopefully it makes the project go smoothly for at least you guys. So and with that, if there's not anything else, I'll let everybody go. Luana, did you have something?
Oh, no, I just put my contact information in a chat.
Okay.
So I just want to
Okay.
make sure she got that. So, but you can also reach me through 311 anyway, if you guys have additional questions.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. You have a good night.